Ohio Senator JD Vance. He is the Republican from Ohio that once said in 2016, "I can't stomach Trump," is what he said. He also said, "I'm a never Trump guy." Of course, later on, he would give his mea culpa and he would become one of Trump's biggest sycophants. And that is where we are today. Well, Donald Trump has been pretty much convicted. I think it's because it was a civil case. They don't call it conviction of doing what again? The judge said he raped the woman. That's not what anybody else said. That's what the judge said. He said if it occurred today, what you did would be called rape, Mr. Trump, right? But JD Vance, when asked about how do you feel about electing a person, about having a person like Donald Trump, who has done this to women, provably, that you support him. I want you to listen to JD Vance's response. Senator JD Vance, Senator Republican of Ohio, JD Vance. Take a listen to this, and then we'll take it on the other side.
Wages are rising now, and we just saw that economic report come in this week showing the economy continues to grow, new job growth as well. But since then, Donald Trump not only lost the 2020 election and tried to overturn the results, he also faced a series of legal judgments and indictments. Most recently, this E. Jean Carroll case where juries have found him liable for sexual assault and defamation, leading to ads like this.
Supporting Donald Trump sends a message to every abuser,
A stunning verdict. Former
every
President Trump
rapist,
has been ordered to pay
and every man who's ever used his power to hurt a woman. Because if he can do it, why shouldn't they?
How do you respond to that your support of Trump is sanctioning that kind of behavior, sexual assault and defamation?
Well, I think it's actually very unfair to the victims of sexual assault to say that somehow their lives are being worse by electing Donald Trump for president, when what he's trying to do, I think, is restore prosperity. So I think it's insulting to victims of sexual assault. If you actually look at so many of the court cases against Donald Trump, George, this is not about prosecuting Trump for something that he did. It's about throwing him off the ballot because Democrats feel that they can't beat him at the ballot box, and so they're trying to defeat him in court. This case, like so many legal cases against Donald Trump, they're trumped up. They're in extremely left-wing jurisdictions, or it's actually the Biden administration prosecuting his chief political rival. I think most Americans recognize that this is not what we want to fight the 2024 election over. Let's fight it over issues. Let's fight it over how to redeliver prosperity to the American worker and peace to the world at large, not over these ridiculous court cases that, frankly, they've been throwing at Trump for well before he became a political candidate, and they're going to be going after him for a long time because his agenda is actually a threat to the people who have been calling the shots in this country for far too long.
You call it a ridiculous case. These were juries that found him liable for sexual assault and defamation. That's ridiculous?
These are juries, George, in extremely left-wing jurisdictions. These are cases that are very often funded by left-wing donors, and they're cases that are funded explicitly to harm him politically. There's so many problems right here at home. I think Donald Trump is the best guy to fix those problems, and I think that we have a very, very good chance of persuading the American people. What they don't want to talk about is weird juries in New York City. They want to talk about how to make their lives better and how to bring the world to a more peaceful place.
So juries in New York City are not legitimate when they find someone liable for sexual defamation and assault?
Well, when the cases are funded by left-wing donors and when the case has absolute left-wing bias all over it, George, absolutely, I think that we should call into question that particular conclusion.
So you're not troubled by the sexual assault and defamation?
Now, here's the thing, people. Here's the thing. Notice no matter how Stephanopoulos tries to get him to feel some sort of an empathy for the regular women, for women in general, he has no care. Oh, it's the women that go through what the women raped by Donald Trump. They would be embarrassed that you guys are calling him out for that. I mean, it's embarrassing. People want to talk about prosperity. Well, first of all, yeah, people want to talk about prosperity as well, but also people should be concerned that the person who's going to be in the White House is a rapist, right? They should be concerned that the person going into the White House is somebody doing harm to women. They should be concerned that the person going into the White House, in as much as JD Vance would want you to believe that Donald Trump is the president of prosperity, that was never realized. He's the president of giving tax cuts to a lot of rich people and giving temporary tiny tax cuts. And I said temporary, tiny tax cuts to the average American citizen that, guess what? That expired. The tax cut to the wealthy never expired. The tax cut to the middle class, the tiny tax cut that really you barely saw. Some of it wasn't even real because what they did is change the way they withhold your monies. Oh, that was tiny and temporary. We have to grow up. We have to stop it. We have to start believing our eyes, believing our ears when we realize that the person that said that not because one said something means that they would execute something. Donald Trump has failed in rebuilding infrastructure. Donald Trump has failed in building the silly wall. Donald Trump has failed in making people more prosperous. We must remember that under Donald Trump's administration, 80% of people were living paycheck to paycheck. 80% of the working class, paycheck to paycheck. They got a $400 bill, they put them in dire straits. Look, it has improved quite a bit under Biden. It's still bad because now it's 60% of people who live paycheck to paycheck. But Biden has proven better economy than Trump in every aspect. Yet we have the Trump sycophants trying to convince Americans otherwise. And so far, they have been fairly successful. Progressives and Democrats, you got a lot of work to do.
We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead. Number 1, subscribe to our channel. And number 2, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.